Hollywood, right. It's all glitz and glamour, red carpets, big premieres, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the dream factory.
But what about what goes on, behind the scenes?
Yeah, what about the reality?
What kind of pressures do people in Hollywood face to fit in, to get those big roles?
Right, to climb that ladder.
Well, we've been looking at this YouTube interview with Terrence Howard.
Oh, yeah, the one in Valuetainment.
Exactly.
He had some pretty interesting things to say.
Yeah, he really doesn't hold back about, his own
I
experiences.
definitely have some strong opinions.
For sure, about staying true to yourself in that kind of high-pressure world.
Absolutely.
So, what stood out to you from this interview?
I mean, this isn't like your typical celebrity interview where they just talk about their latest project.
No, got it.
He goes deep,
Yeah.
like almost philosophical,
Mm-hmm.
about integrity and what you might have to give up for success in Hollywood.
Right, right.
So for this deep dive, we're really going to try to unpack his perspective, especially this idea he keeps coming back to the man card.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's that crazy story about Sean Diddy Combs, Puffy.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
It's important to remember, though, we're hearing one person's side of things.
Right.
It's his account and his interpretation of events, based on what he's choosing to share publicly.
For sure. So let's start with this whole man card concept. It sounds a little, I don't know.
A little old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. But it's not really about some outdated idea of masculinity.
No.
Not as he explains it anyway. He defines it as like your basic right to be a man.
Okay.
But here's the thing. He doesn't believe anyone can take that away from you.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like you give it away by the choices you make,
I see.
often out of fear
Crazy.
or because you're trying to gain something, like power, money, fame, whatever.
So the man card is really about integrity. Or maybe self-respect.
Yeah, you could say that. It's
Yeah.
like he believes you got to be true to yourself or you lose something essential.
And he seems to think this is a pretty serious thing. It's not just like a casual observation for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about it having real consequences.
Yeah? Like what?
He says you can lose your spiritual energy, and he even implies it might be like an irreversible loss.
Wow, that's pretty heavy.
It is. He even connects it to things like people turning to drugs.
Really?
Yeah, as a way of coping with that, like inner emptiness from having compromised their values.
So for him, it's not just about, making the right choices. It's a lot deeper than that.
Definitely. It's about staying true to who you are at your core.
And this isn't just some abstract concept for him either. He actually calls out some pretty big names.
Right. He brings up people like Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
And he sort of implies that maybe some of their struggles, their public struggles,
Right.
stem from past compromises they made.
It's a bold statement for sure.
It is. And, thinking about the big picture he's painting here,
Mm-hmm.
he talks about how Hollywood can push people to become really fluid.
Fluid.
Yeah. He doesn't fully explain what he means, but it sounds like.
What?
Like there's this pressure to adapt or maybe even conform to certain expectations.
Mm,
And that can chip away at a person's sense of self,
right.
making it hard to hold on to that man card
Yeah.
he values so much.
So basically, you're saying there's this tension between staying true to yourself and fitting into this world.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
how much external pressure can actually shape who you are inside.
Then this leads right into his whole thing about compromising integrity for success, which seems to be like a major issue for him.
Yeah, no kidding. He's super vocal about it.
Yeah. He talks about like actors and actresses who, in his opinion, trade their bodies
Right.
or sacrifice their principles for roles, awards, or financial stability.
It's that classic dilemma, right? Personal values versus getting ahead.
Yeah, and it makes you think, what's the point of all that success if you lose yourself along the way?
Exactly. And he's basically saying that achieving those external goals, the fame, the money,
Mm-hmm.
it means nothing if it comes at the cost of your soul, as he puts it.
I see.
Like real fulfillment can't be built on a foundation of compromised integrity.
And he uses that analogy, remember?
Oh, yeah, the Nobel Prize one.
Winning all those awards, but having to completely abandon his integrity to do it.
And then he asks, what would be the benefit of that?
It's a good question.
It is,
Hmm.
because it really highlights his belief
Yeah.
that you got to go into any field, but especially Hollywood, with strong morals
Right.
and like never stray from them no matter what.
And he ties this back to how he sees men in general.
Right, with that whole sperm thing.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It was definitely different. But he's basically using it to make a point about
Yeah. about?
Well, he talks about how men produce a huge amount of sperm,
Okay.
and he sees that as like a sign of their inherent aggression or drive. And
Mm.
he'd say that shouldn't be traded away just to fit in with what Hollywood expects.
So it's all about, like, staying true to your nature.
Yep. And not letting the industry mold you into something you're not.
So can we talk about that story he told about Puffy?
Oh, the Diddy anecdote.
Yeah. I mean, that's what everyone's been talking about.
For sure. It's quite a tale.
It is. So he gets invited by Puffy, right?
Right.
And it sounds like he thought he was going to be, like, an acting coach or
Yeah,
something.
that was his understanding.
But then the way he describes these meetings, it's so strange.
It's almost surreal.
Yeah.
Like, he says he shows up and Puffy's just kind of there,
What?
just like looking at him.
Really?
Yeah. There's no talk about acting, no scripts, no coaching.
So bizarre.
It's like these really aimless, uncomfortable interactions, you know?
Yeah.
It definitely creates this weird vibe.
And then it gets even weirder.
Right. Puffy asks Howard to play his music.
Which he does.
He does. And Howard's describing it, and Puffy's just sitting there, still just watching him.
So creepy.
Yeah, I know. It's all very unsettling the way he tells it.
It is. But then comes the bombshell. Oh, yeah. What his assistant supposedly told him.
Right.
So according to Howard, his assistant says, and I'm quoting here, "I think he's trying to F-shock you."
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a very blunt, very explicit accusation.
And serious.
Extremely. And Howard's reaction is, well, it's immediate.
Like, he just cuts off all contact.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in his telling, this whole encounter becomes like the perfect example of the kind of compromising situations he thinks are rampant in Hollywood.
Right.
The kind he's determined to avoid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like a real-life illustration of what he means by not giving away his manhood, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So this leads to, I guess, his own rules, the
Yeah.
lines he won't cross.
His stance, his principles, whatever you want to call them.
And he's super upfront about it.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't mince words.
He says he refuses to, like, bend over.
Yeah.
To compromise his values, to take certain roles, specifically mentioning gay roles,
Right.
or to, engage in behaviors that violate his man card, as he puts it.
Yeah, and he's very clear that this has cost him.
Professionally.
Yeah. He openly admits that he's lost out on jobs because of it.
Hmm.
Because he refused to do what was asked of him, or what was expected of him, I guess.
It's a pretty strong statement to make.
It is. And it gets even more intense when he talks about his response to people who he felt were being disrespectful or inappropriate.
Like, what did he say?
He mentions threatening violence, like talking about punching them or, knocking their heads off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And whether or not you agree with that kind of reaction, it shows just how strongly he feels about this.
For sure. It's not just an intellectual exercise for him, it's personal.
Yeah. It's about self-respect, standing up for himself, protecting his boundaries.
Definitely. But despite all this, I mean, despite these strong views and these experiences, he's still working in Hollywood, right?
He is. He even says, though, that he still has to do the Chitlin circuit, which kind of implies, well, it implies that he's not exactly getting those big A-list roles, that he's maybe taking whatever he can get to pay the bills.
Makes you think he hasn't quite reached that level of, like, financial independence where he can just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
Which is interesting because he does seem to have other passions.
Oh, for sure. He gets really animated when he talks about his science work.
Yeah.
He even makes some pretty bold claims, like he says he's redefined the universe.
Wow.
Yeah, and he mentions having patents for his inventions.
So it's this whole other side to him,
Absolutely, like this world outside of Hollywood that he's really invested in.
And he's even inviting people to connect with him on it.
Right, he mentions a platform called Manet, and even shows a QR code in the video.
So he's serious about it.
Yeah, it seems like a big part of what he's focused on, at least for the future.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Terrence Howard, what are the main takeaways?
Well, I think first and foremost is concept of the man card.
Right.
This idea of like a core, unchangeable part of who you are that you have to protect at all costs.
Yeah.
And then there's this warning he gives about Hollywood, this pressure to compromise your integrity for success.
Definitely.
And of course, that unforgettable story about Puffy, which he uses as like a cautionary tale.
Right.
It's a really, I don't know, it's thought-provoking stuff.
It is. It makes you think about, how people in all sorts of fields balance staying true to their values with getting ahead.
Absolutely. It's not just a Hollywood thing.
No. So for you listening, we want to leave you with this question. Is there a man card or something like it that guides your decisions when you're faced with pressure or tough choices?
Yeah, because ultimately it's about figuring out what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not,
Yeah.
and what those choices might cost you in the long run.
It's definitely something to think about.
It is. We encourage you to reflect on Terrence Howard's experiences and consider if they resonate with you in any way.
Yeah, think about the industries you're in or the fields you're passionate about.
Yeah. Exactly. And maybe this deep dive has given you a new perspective on those age-old questions of ethics, integrity, and what it really means to stay true to yourself.
Definitely a lot to unpack. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.